Hello and welcome to Euphoria. Today we're going to continue with the design of a new building to go into my LEGO city, a MOC or my own creation. In this series of videos we're looking at the process of design, and later I'll be building this out of LEGO bricks and placing it in my city. I'm basing the idea for the MOC around this little building, which is the Corner Deli from LEGO set 76311. We want this to be a modular building to fit in with the other modular buildings in my city. So join me in this episode where we'll be working on the design a bit more to develop what I call the structural design for this new MOC. In the previous videos in this series, we looked at the inspiration for starting this MOC after making the little deli building from LEGO set 76311. It seemed like this was a good starting point from which to develop a modular building based on this little Delicatessen, so we put some thought into deciding on a more definite concept for the MOC. It's going to be a city building with one or two shops on the ground floor, including the little deli, with a couple of stories of apartments above the shops. And we settled on a European style for the building that might allow us to have some interesting colours and features to make a building that will fit well in my LEGO city. Then we looked at various options for the layout and the development of an outline design. This MOC will follow the rules and conventions for a modular building, but we have a slightly novel layout because we're going to try to fit this MOC onto a 16 by 32 base plate and make it into a half corner modular, which I haven't done before. So in this video, which is part 4 of the series, we'll take the outline design, which we developed in the previous episode, and develop the design further. We'll be covering the rest of the design and build of the MOC in later episodes in this series, so look out for those coming up. Now we're going to look at the structural design for this MOC. So far we've only done an outline design, but in this video we'll be looking at nailing down the shape and structure of the MOC, deciding how it can be divided into sections or modules, and making sure it's strong enough. We'll also start to think about the internal structure and how to get from one part of the building to another. This is a fairly small and simple building, certainly compared with some of my other and much larger MOCs, so it shouldn't be too complicated. But there are still some interesting ideas to play with and decisions to be made about how this MOC will work, including how we're going to lay out the interiors. And we'll have to decide how the roofs will work as well. So let's make a start. Now I'm using an analogue way of planning, using squared paper to represent the layout of the building. It's a bit old-fashioned, but sometimes there's nothing to beat a bit of paper, a pencil and ruler, and the important bit, an eraser. At this stage, having already done the outline design, you may well ask, why am I still using pencil and paper?
Come on, Max, why are you still using pencil and paper?
Yep, that's a good and fair question.
Surely there are better ways. For example, using LEGO CAD packages like Studio?
Well, yes, I could start designing at this point using Studio.
Or couldn't you just get on with building it from LEGO bricks?
Okay, let me explain. I could use the computer or real LEGO bricks to progress the design. In fact, I do use both of those, and I'll be moving to the use of Studio for the next stage. It's very tempting to jump in right now and start designing on the computer. I've used computer design for previous MOCs, but it's very easy to get lost in the detail of all the bricks, There are so many options with different types of elements and how they fit together. It is very easy to move things around, but the program will detect when things are colliding, which is great and very useful. But when I move one part, say this door, then I also need to move and adjust all the bricks around it. With pencil and paper, I can just rub out a line and move it over by one square without worrying about what bricks I'm using or whether they fit together. On the computer, it's also possible to leave gaps or leave things unsupported and then think you've finished the design. And it can be difficult to see inside or underneath things that you've already built, so you spend time hiding and unhiding things, or you find that bricks bump into other bricks that you've hidden earlier. So it's just a little bit early to start designing in a computer program, and I would like to get the structure sorted out first.
Okay, but couldn't you just start building it straight away out of Lego bricks?
Yes, you can just build with bricks. In fact, when I built two of my MOCs, they were also conversions of existing Lego sets, I did create them that way. This cafe and townhouse MOC was a modular conversion of the Creator 3-in-1 set 31097. And this MOC of the Honeydew Sweet Shop in a historic townhouse was a modular conversion of the little sweet shop from Lego set 76388. They both worked out really well, and it's quite a satisfying way of building a MOC, kind of organically, if you have a supply of bricks, or if you're happy to build using what you have and buy the rest later. So I'm not saying there's a right and a wrong way to do all of this, I'm just explaining where I'm at with the design of this MOC. I will be using computer design and real Lego bricks in the design process for this MOC at the appropriate time.
That's great. Thanks for explaining all that.
So now with that short explanation, we can carry on with the design. If you would like me to develop a more in-depth discussion about the pros and cons of different ways of developing a design, please let me know in the comments below. Okay, now we need to talk about stairs and staircases. Modular buildings need stairs, in my opinion. Lego produces many of their sets as play sets or doll's house style buildings that have no back and no stairs. But modular buildings are more complete and usually do provide some means for a minifigure to reach the upper levels of a building. For example, the pet shop is a half modular building that has a staircase at the side of the shop to reach the first floor, and it has another staircase internally to reach the top floor. My old astronomical clock tower MOC is a corner modular and has the representation of a stone staircase on the ground floor and wooden staircases on the upper floors. My townhouse and apartment cafe MOC is also a corner modular building, but it has two separate buildings, so it needs separate staircases for each side to reach the upper levels. For my large town hall MOC, we designed a stairwell at the back of the building to allow minifigs to access all the floors while keeping the stairs separate from all the office spaces in the building. So it's all possible, but somehow we've got to include stairs in this rather small MOC to get from the ground floor to the apartment on the upper floors. I'm not going to consider an external staircase like the one that the Lego designers used for the recent Tudor Corner modular, and that means we've got to find somewhere in this small footprint for a flight of stairs. For a larger building, that's not too much of an issue. but the stairs don't really get smaller as you make the building smaller, and so for a small building like this one, they take up a disproportionate amount of space. Now, unless the stairs are going to be inside one of the shops, we also need to have a separate external door for the apartment. So we need to find space on the ground floor for that door, and it has to lead to a staircase. There isn't space for the entrance and stairs on the side of the deli here, so it either has to go next to the deli here or on the end of the building here. I did wonder about just missing out the other shop and keeping the deli, or just putting a tiny kiosk instead of a shop. But I think that compromises the concept of the MOC as having two shops. We can just about fit in the deli, an entrance doorway and a shop if I keep the deli and the shop fairly small, and as this is meant to be a city centre location, I think that's fair enough. The doorway for the apartment can go about here, and there's room for the shop front for the shop on the side here, and we can keep the appearance of two smaller buildings with some kind of division vertically up here. So then the stairs can go in behind the door to the apartment. But we'll need more steps to get to the first floor, and there isn't space for them in the width of the building, so we might have to go round the corner for the last few steps. So now we can draw up the layout of the first floor of the building and the position of the hole in the first floor for the stairs to come up into. We'll also need a set of stairs on that floor to get to the top floor of the building, and we can position the stairs on that floor against the back wall of the building so that they go up above the hole where the stairs from the floor below emerge. So far we haven't really thought much about the layout of the upper stories of this building, so let's sort out how that's going to work. Obviously the first floor needs to sit above the ground floor, and we'll want to be able to take the floors off separately the way we can with normal modular buildings. And so I'd like to build each floor as one piece or module. Because of the small size of the building, these upper floors don't have much room, and certainly not enough for two apartments. So even though we want to retain the appearance of two tall, narrow buildings, we'll have to make the upstairs all one apartment. Even so, this building is pretty narrow and there isn't that much space inside. So let's push the envelope a bit further by adding a slight overhang to the first floor. Even just a couple of studs would make quite a bit of difference to the space inside. This overhang can come as far along as the end of the deli, and so I could make that overhang apply to one of the two narrow buildings that make up this MOC. We'll think about the interior layout later, but for now I have in mind that the interior will be a similar arrangement to my townhouse and apartment cafe MOC, where the first floor is a living space and the top floor is a bedroom. We'll probably keep the internal spaces as open plan, except possibly closing off the bedroom and bathroom. Let's have a think about the roof. We drew a flat roof before because we're considering this to be a fairly modern building, as we discussed when looking at the concept for this MOC. It would be nice to have something a bit fancier than just a plain flat roof. One of my viewers made the suggestion to put a roof garden on the roof, and that sounds like a great idea. It would be completely in keeping with the type of building that this represents. So let's do that, but providing access to the roof will require an additional flight of stairs in the top floor. That's okay, we can place the stairs in the same way as we did for the floor below. We'll need a parapet round the roof to stop minifigs falling off. And we can maybe do that in two different styles to continue the impression that this is two buildings next to each other. So the roof will be made as one section, the same as the floors below, and it will have to include a hole and some sort of cover for the stairs to reach up to the roof. That's another detail we'll have to work out later in the design. I appreciate that it's getting pretty hard for you to visualize in 3D what I'm drawing here, but having gone through all that thought process, I now have a pretty good idea about how this MOC is going to be structured. It will still be a half-corner modular building with two shops on the ground floor and an entrance to the small apartment which will be on the floors above. Even though it's small, it will appear to be two narrow buildings with the deli in the ground floor of one and a small shop in the ground floor of the other. There'll be four sections or modules: the pavement and ground floor with the two shops, the first floor with the living space of the apartment, the second floor with the bedroom for the apartment, and the roof with a roof terrace or roof garden. We've now got a pretty good idea of the sizes and shapes of those sections and how they will fit together, and we know roughly where the doors and stairs will go to provide access to the building. Now, rather annoyingly, I've noticed that the deli sign on the side of the little deli has an arrow on it pointing to the right. So if we're going to use this sign and we want it to be visible from the front of the city layout, which I do, then the deli is going to have to be on the right and the pavement on the left. That means that the way I've been looking at it using the original deli building and drawing it on my plans are both the wrong way round. So when we design this in the computer, we'll reverse it to build it the right way round for the sign. So we'll call time here on the structural part of the design. Although I originally perceived this as a fairly simple design, and it is relatively simple compared to some of my other larger and more complicated MOCs, there was still plenty to think about in fitting such a lot into the small footprint that we'd allocated.
Okay, but couldn't you just start building it straight away out of Lego bricks?
Well, I'm really glad that we spent the time to visualise some ideas before diving into digital or physical creation. That's allowed me time to explore some ideas without worrying too much about the details. It's not always straightforward, and it's good that I had the eraser handy, as I had to play around with different options before settling on a structure that would work for this MOC. It might have been easier to design a full corner modular building, where the space constraints wouldn't have been so severe. Nevertheless, I think we've got a pretty solid design now, and I have confidence to start laying down some digital bricks and see this starting to develop as a proper 3D model. So next we'll be moving on to the detailed design, where we'll look at how this works with Lego bricks, doors and windows and other elements, and we'll be doing that in the computer using the Studio Lego Designer program. So join me in the next video to see how we get on with developing this design with Lego bricks. Don't forget to like this video if you liked it, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, so that you don't miss out on any updates. Thanks for watching, and join me again for more updates on Lego sets, modular buildings, my own designs and builds, updates on my Lego City and other Lego related content.